All right, well, welcome to the Omnia Soul Art Show. I think this might be episode 60, 59? I think 59. Could be 60, but we'll see how long we go, because then we can always cut it into two and be the 60th episode as well. Today, we are joined by Fiz, a.k.a. Miserable Gargoyle, and we are running... do you want to actually talk about the setup?
Sure. So this is the first time I've done it, but we're running clips from Resolume through an analog video mixer and then capturing those on a CRT.
Yeah, so
cool.
This is the first time using Resolume on the show. I actually just started using Resolume in live performances, adding that to my VJ setup. And do you want to talk about kind of what's your history with VJing, with doing visuals, and also with Resolume?
Yeah, so I actually come from theater world. So I started doing projection design for shows at my high school when I was 15, and I still do that. But VJing just kind of gives me the opportunity to experiment with visuals in a way that I wouldn't be able to if I was doing work for a director. And I think I haven't quite found my signature VJ style yet, but that's okay. Yeah, and so I learned Resolume, kind of mostly self-taught Resolume for VJ stuff. And I just use it because I don't have an analog setup, and it was crazy for me to come to Chicago and be the only kid in town with Resolume, so I feel a little bit weird for that, but...
I feel like it's definitely picked up more. I feel like just VJs around town are starting to use Resolume more in their setup. And I know I just especially the show I just had last weekend, I feel like I was so hesitant about it. I was like, oh, I have enough analog stuff I can just run. But then at the same time I was still running stuff through OBS to have some sort of way to manage my clips and flip between them. But Resolume just has so much more that I can do with it. The amount of effects and the amount of even still bringing in an analog setup and getting to switch between either pre-made analog clips or some sort of live feed as a camera is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and actually the first show that I VJ'd, I didn't have Resolume for, and I did it all in Isadora, which is a nodes-based projection mapping software, and it was terrible. And so I was I have to get something that's actually built for live video performance.
How well does it work as projection mapping?
Resolume, it's pretty good. It's especially good for things that have multiple screens. Yeah. Which is why it's used a lot in arena shows, or at least somewhat low-end arena shows.
The other software that you mentioned that you first used when you VJ'd, does that work better as a projection mapping, or did it just suck overall?
It sucks for live playback, or not live playback, but live sort of mixing. It's definitely for theater. It's a lot for interactive stuff, because you can patch pretty much whatever you want into it. Yeah. It's not the most stable software. Yeah. I also have used Watch Out for stuff, but that's pretty much just a one timeline playback. Yeah. That was made for TV broadcast and is used in theater also pretty often alongside Isadora.
I'm trying to get, because right now through school I have access to Avenue, but then on the Black Friday sale, I'm trying to get Resolume Arena, because it's your student discount I think is 50%. And then Black Friday is another 25%. And this isn't a plug.
No, it is a plug though. It is.
It's a plug in the sense of yes, please take advantage of that and get the discount, because it's too expensive without it. But and also if Resolume wants to sponsor the show, that wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah, no, they let you stack your student ID and Black Friday discount, which I got basically is 75% off the software. That's what I did. That's kind of the only way to get it.
That's the only way I could afford it. And yeah. But I'm enjoying getting to mess around with Avenue in class. It's cool too, because you were mentioning before we started that there might be a little bit of choppiness, but I haven't noticed.
Yeah, I deleted some stuff. I think my computer's running smoother now.
Nice. That was my main thing with this last show I had is I think the only time, well, first my Resolume like completely crashed right before the show started, and then I got it up and working again, but I wasn't sure where my clips were because I wasn't finding them on our solid state drive, but Resolume found them and everything was working fine. But I will say, like, my computer like can't handle it that well. Whereas flipping between clips, especially, there was like some moments where it was just freezing. Like when people are like dancing and stuff, they don't notice unless it's like frozen.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've done shows where I have to VJ for like 5 or 6 hours straight, and usually the computer quits before I do.
Yeah.
And so at first it'll like freeze and it'll keep outputting, it'll keep like spitting stuff out, but I'm not able to touch anything, and then eventually it just freezes, and then I'm like, okay, I'm packing up for the night. Like, it's over.
And then the piece of gear, people who have seen the show probably recognize the aesthetic of it, but it's the Fritz D controller from BPMC, which is like a circuit bent piece of video gear, one in, one out. It has audio in and out, but it doesn't actually glitch the audio. But I love the amount of like texture you can get with it. Like, it really works so well with the CRTs. But yeah, if you want to mess around with any of these knobs, feel free as well.
Sure, yeah. I mean, what I have in the computer pretty much looks nothing like what we're seeing right now, which is awesome, and I love that.
Yeah, let's see if we can get... That's like at least closer to the image.
Yeah. It's definitely squished.
Yeah, I think that is the output through this, which might be something we could change to, with the... Since it's being converted into RCA, there might be a way to output the... Because right now I feel like it's outputting like zoomed in, like full screen on the CRT. But there might be a way to do like more widescreen of the like 1080 what you're seeing.
Yeah. I'm not completely zoomed all the way either.
Oh, sorry. Let me try to get it more stable for you.
Okay, yeah, that's better.
There we go. How's it? And it looks pretty good on the camera too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And if everything goes according to plan, this will be the first episode of the show shot in 4K. So shout out to my school for letting me go in debt to rent it or this camera out.
You just have to take advantage of stuff like that.
Literally, that's honestly, yeah, I'm like trying to get as much of my money's worth as possible and checking out stuff as much as possible. Like even for the show I just did, they weren't sure if the venue had a projector or not, so I was like, okay, renting out a projector, like renting out a camera, filming the whole show so I can like upload it, which is pretty nice, and I want to start doing that more often, just to like, one, because I could bring in a camera feed to Resolume, which is cool, and get some like interesting feedback from the projector, but then also just having that like archive of your work is like really nice to have.
Yeah, definitely.
This looks really sick. I love that. Was that an animation you made or
So the stuff that I've thrown into Resolume right now is like a combination of past projects and like random clips. Some that I've ripped from other VJs with permission.
Yeah.
So this one is not original.
I kind of love the like visual share too of working with other VJs and getting just a massive amount of clips.
Yeah, this one that I have right now is a really old like AI art composition I made, because I was into that like before it was cool.
Yeah.
But I don't really do it that much anymore.
I especially like the older AI when it was weirder. I feel like it's...
As soon as it got good, I was completely bored with it.
Exactly. Like, I like the, like, gross, like, fucked up hands and... Yeah, but when it plays the game of, like, is this real, is this not? Or if it's just, like, this looks like, you know, the, like, anime stuff, I think is annoying.
Super. These are actually from a Left at London music video that I worked on over the course of like multiple years.
Talk about that, because I remember seeing that project online and thinking that was so cool and like following Left at London's like career throughout the year, just like online. And so like, how did you end up like working with her?
Yeah, so I was also just like listened to her music and thought it was really cool. And I had to do a sort of like projection mapping project for class, and I had her song Kudzu on repeat, and so I made my project to that song, and then I just posted it to Instagram and like tagged her to see what would happen. And she was like, yo, this is sick, let's collab. So then I sort of scaled up the whole operation, and what I did, the workflow was kind of stupid, but I made AI art stills, and then I got the process videos from it, because I made them with like the Google Colab VQ GAN thing. This is like before AI art had like names and websites. And so then I did like After Effects animations with those, so I sort of looped them and composited them with other things. And then some of these, I then took that into Resolume and then applied an extra layer of effects in Resolume. And then I built this whole set out of white foam core in my living room. I like turned my whole house into the film set for the music video, and then projected the visuals that I had made onto this like house shape. And then I filmed that, and then I took it back into After Effects, and then added like another layer of effects on top. And then the video was originally going to have footage of Nat dancing, but we never got that to happen, so I was just like, okay, we're making it a lyric video. But
Okay,
I
nice.
think that was the right call, and I think it makes kind of like the world of the visuals kind of be able to exist by itself a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun.
What have you been working on lately? Do you have any shows coming up, or have you done any shows recently?
I have not VJ'd in over a year, like, really, so that's not great, but I've been doing a ton of theater. I have a show open right now called The Molehill Stories. It's theater for young audiences done through my school. But I'm really proud of that design. It's basically a story. It's like a 45-minute long show of a bunch of like woodland creatures getting along in the forest. But yeah, it was the first time. I always like set myself a couple challenges that I want to meet for myself so that I keep growing and stuff, because a lot of times school like doesn't actually help you with that.
Definitely.
So with this one, I was using an NDI feed straight from After Effects into Isadora, the projection mapping software, so that I could do kind of more in-depth color correction, like, and be able to see it on stage while I was doing the color correction. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I would do mapping that way too, but this show, like the set, I was projecting onto the set, which was painted like halfway. It had like suggestion of color and shapes. And so then and the set was built, it was all CNC'd, so there was no like carpenter error between the drawings and the set. Yeah. So I was able to just take the CNC files into After Effects. And then it was sort of like a mosaic look. Mm-hmm. And so like 90% of that design process was me just using the color picker in Photoshop to select each of the pixels in this sort of mosaic, and then changing the colors. I made a couple sort of 3-frame animations. There was like a fire sequence and a falling through the clouds sequence that I did that for.
Oh, those purples and oranges we're getting are great.
Those look great. Yeah, and then I worked with a team of like 3 other people to do all the content for it, because it was, I mean, I'm always extra. I always do more than I need to. Mm-hmm. But yeah. And then I'm doing something at Comfort Station in mid-November. I'm not exactly sure what yet, but my colleague Dwight Bellissimo, who also does like comedy rap music at Dwizzle D, shout out. He did a project one time where he hooked up, I think it was Isadora to Ableton, and then used an Xbox depth camera to track certain points on his body. So he did a bunch of like weird movement stuff, and then that altered the video and also some like clicking sounds in Ableton in real time. And so that's what I'm going to try to bring to Comfort Station.
That's going to be really cool.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to do kind of more like synths and stuff. I don't know if you've seen Imogen Heap has her like Mimu gloves, I think they're called. But it's sort of like gestures to make sounds, and hers are a lot more detailed than I'll ever be able to get, but sort of like if you move one of your fingers, then like that's pitch, or another one is volume and stuff like that.
Ariana Grande have something like that?
I'm sure they've gone around. You can also like buy them or rent them or something. Of course, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to do that just with like myself against a blank background with the Xbox camera to try to get some sort of like, yeah, sounds happening. It's all going to be very abstract.
Yeah. I love performing it. So, and with Comfort Station, that's going to be outside, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, I assume it's indoors.
Okay, because I know they have the little, like, the small indoor, and then they have just, like, the kind of complete, like, outdoor. But I've seen both utilized before. Like, the last show I did there was with //Sense, which is, like, an experimental theater group that Gordon Fong put together through SAIC. That, so it had, like, some things going on, like, in the inside, and then also like the entire just like outdoor area used. And I've also gone to Noise Prom there, which Hedra, who puts that together, I'm hoping will do it again because I miss Noise Prom. But that was outside as well.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of things in there indoor, but actually never have seen anything there outside. But I think, I mean, it'll be cold by then, so probably indoors.
And shout out to Prometheus for coming in and making noise. He's gone now.
Yeah. Also, shout out to my like sticky laptop. I hope people can't hear it, but it's sticky every time because someone poured a drink on it at a rave one time.
I hate that.
And
that's horrible.
Yeah, I do not leave it unattended anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just so sticky now, and I've tried to clean it so many times.
That's how I was testing this with my really, really old MacBook. I think it's like 2013 or something.
Wait, check this out.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, the mixer is doing a lot because I'm just pretty much outputting like white and green.
I think it works so well with the almost like chroma key too. You like where that, just interpreting that white and just like taking it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start some like generative effects that are just like colors and stuff and see what happens.
Oh, those are ones that I need to actually learn and use because I feel like at my show I was using a bunch of clips that I had made. I had feed from the camera that I was switching between an HDMI switcher to a Fire Stick that I was just using the Criterion channel on. Because every other app I tried on the Fire Stick would either, if I use the HDMI switcher, it would either pause the clip or it completely just like crash whatever app was using.
Yeah.
But Criterion kept playing, which is what I wanted.
Yeah, and all of these effects are kind of like stock VJ effects that look like shit when they're on their own, but through the video mixer, these look great because they're just very rudimentary, like lines and dots and stuff like that. Yeah,
because I feel like the effects that I used the most were the switch glitch and just speeding it up, slowing it down.
Yeah.
The mirroring, which I set how I would use often in music videos, and then occasionally the kaleidoscope, but I kind of like that combined with other things because it gets like way too generic if you just leave it on its own. But these like smaller animations, like they work so well with this. It reminds me of Lumen, which is a like a video synth software. It tries to emulate analog video synths in a software form, but a lot of them just on their own kind of end up looking like screensavers. But if you combine with this analog gear, you can get some very interesting textures and colors.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have this negative impression of Resolume that everything that you do with it will look the same, and it's like only if you're being basic. Yes,
it's literally like a tool. You can very well use things that are just that stock Resolume, but yeah, there's definitely ways around it, and even this is like looking at what is on the screen compared to what we're getting out of here is awesome.
Yeah, I'm making these like really subtle changes that looks totally different on the screen. Yeah, that looks fucking sick.
So with you, so you said you came to Chicago and started VJing and did the projection mapping software in your first set that you had like started using with your kind of theater practice. How did your theater practice kind of like lead into doing like live visuals at shows? Or is there a clear thread through, or is it more just like opportunities like arise? Like
there's kind of a like hilariously clear thread as to like how I got into VJing. I don't know what dream I had to be a VJ. I don't remember anymore. But what did happen is I saw like the Fraxium and Umru show at Subterranean in like 2021 maybe. Yeah, and like I met Cam Stacy and they were like, shoot us an email if you want to do anything. So I was like, hey, I kind of VJ. I didn't at the time, but then sort of like Cam's resident DJ or VJ Halpa got sick like the night of a show and I was free, so that was the first one I did. It was completely by chance, but like Palpa was so sweet and like let me use a bunch of his videos because I didn't have any of my own stock at the time. So
it really is like, obviously the term DIY, we hear that all the time, but one of my professors uses the term like DIT, do it together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it is. I feel like that's how, like, I was doing the show, just doing live visuals for my own, like, streams or music videos and that sort of thing, and done, like, maybe, like, one VJ set before for, like, my own music, but really wanted to get more into it. And so it was just, like, going to one of Taylor's shows and talking to Aaron and being, if you ever need more VJs.
Yeah.
And literally that's how we met, too, is, like, both VJing bit by bit that Aaron put together. And, yeah, so it's just, like, there's so many cool things that can happen from just, like, going to shows and talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
absolutely.
getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of, like, because I feel like, I don't know how much is it compared to musicians, but I know, like, there's a lot of, like, visual artists who are, like, very introverted, but you really just gotta, like, go out and talk to people.
Yeah, seriously. I think that Bit by Bit was the last one that I VJ'd, actually.
Was that the Halloween one, or which one was that?
No, that was in, like, February.
Okay, cool, yeah. Oh, yes, because I did the Halloween one, and then the February one was the last. I think that might have been the last Bit by Bit that's happened, because I've done Heavenswear, and I know Aaron's got the Bit Bash this weekend, actually, which is at the, I want to say, the Japanese Cultural Center. By the time this episode will come out, it'll be already past, so, like,
yeah,
we're plugging a past event, because I'll probably have this out sometime next week. But yeah, shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Vino Sai. one thing I really wanted to try, which I wasn't able to make happen, since we are going from your computer HDMI to a RCA like converter, HDMI to AV. I have like a couple like dirty mixers, which is taking 2 inputs and 1 output. And if I had planned ahead enough, I would have gotten a second HDMI to AV converter, and then had us both open up Resolume and then output to the dirty mixer.
Oh yeah,
and then just like have like a battle for like the screen, essentially. Because you can like pan between the two, or just keep it in the middle, and they're just like glitchy and like fighting for.
Yeah, and I've wanted to do the opposite too, and like Taylor and I have talked about doing this, but haven't done it yet. Is of like going the opposite way too, where Taylor like would pick a VHS tape or 2, and then I would take that feed, and sort of like project it out from my computer.
Yeah.
So like through Resolume,
Yeah.
kind of going the other way, so applying digital effects to the analog signal, which would also be really fun to try.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun because you can get some very interesting effects either way. I think even there's so many just natural glitches of trying to take in that analog signal into digital. Just even if you're just trying to, update your or convert your VHS to digital files, you'll get just like it going in and out. And it's funny too because they look so much texturally different, the digital analog to digital. Almost like more like when stuff gets cut up, it's more like flat, like base colors, as opposed to this like the textures of seeing the phosphors of the cells of the CRT.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I will put these clips on like Google Drive or something, and then if you want to use any of this footage, like chop it up and bring it back into Resolume, feel free, because you can definitely get some very interesting like all the texture that the camera is picking up will like show up on the projector.
Yeah, that sounds sick. The other thing I need to do more is sort of just mess with video parameters that have nothing to do with effects. So just like speed, rotate, like like reversing footage, or scaling it up and down, cutting out frames, doing sort of like really basic stuff with it, looping it randomly.
Yeah, so I'm in a class called Real Time, which is actually how I got the copy of Resolume I have. But we started with the history of video art, then just analog stuff, made like a dirty mixer and an Altoids tin,
Mm-hmm.
but then learned Resolume, and now we're learning some basic Max MSP and like how that can communicate with Resolume. But what did you say just before I started talking? So I was going to add something about this.
Sort of just how you can do so much with just like changing the speed of a video. Or
Yes. Okay, yeah. So we had our first like performance, and we could do either analog stuff, we could do like anything we had learned basically, and it was just a short like 3 to 7 minute performance. When what I ended up doing is taking like a bunch of break beats, and then taking like some footage that I'd glitched and then data moshed, so it was just like going in and out of like skateboard footage to just like a complete just taking over the screen with like mesh of pixel colors. But I made a bunch of clips of those with each one having like a breakbeat sample, so the clip would play all the way through and loop. So if I just kept on one clip, it would just be like, a repeating beat. But then using a MIDI controller and flipping between them. But then also, it was so much fun to like change the speed since I was changing the video and the audio at the same time. But yeah, that's one of like, I feel like I didn't do that enough in my last set of actually messing with the speed, because there is so much you can do just with the touch of the button of just going from like the speed at like 1 to speeding it up. I will say with Resolume 2, if you go like too fast, it just too fast or obviously too slow, it just pauses it.
Yeah.
But sometimes too fast, it will just like sometimes freeze up on you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced with, because one thing I ran into is sometimes the projector would freeze, but other times it seemed like the computer is prioritizing the projector, which I appreciated. Whereas like my computer looked frozen, but the image kept going on the projector.
I think that might just be Resolume doing its thing of like anything but crashing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like we can't take any more input right now, but we'll be nice and make it so that it's not like a total catastrophe. Yeah, I'm actually recording from here now so that I have sort of an archive of the uncrunched videos that I did.
If you
which would be really cool to do like a side-by-side.
Yeah, if you can send that to me too, like now
Yeah.
I know, re-listening to the episode too, I know I can like drop that in, or even chop it up and have like some of the footage, some of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, do that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, because then we are really capturing the analog and the digital and giving people kind of like a side-by-side of like the differences. Especially, what is this clip with the lights? Is that from an anime, or is that...
I have no idea. This was from... This one's not one of mine, technically.
Oh, okay, cool. So you've got theater stuff going on. What else? What else do you got going on creatively, or do you want to talk more about your like, theater practice? Or
I was gonna say one more thing about VJing, and then I forgot, but it'll come back to me. I've been getting into puppetry lately.
Okay, cool. Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went straight into like projection design and theater, but I do a bunch of other stuff. Like I do scenic carpentry, I can do electrician stuff. Like that's mostly what I do for work. It's just like stage electrician stuff. But I spent almost a month at Bread and Puppet in Vermont this summer, which is like a puppet theater like commune that's been around since the 60s.
That's awesome.
That was pretty fun, and so I just like met a bunch of super creative people, and that definitely just made me want to do more. So I'm working on a little puppetry project that might just be like Halloween costumes, might end up being something more. We've submitted it to a gallery, but me and 2 friends are doing that. So just kind of, I like to have physical art that I can do that's not digital, because sometimes digital art starts to feel a lot like work.
Yeah, oh yeah. Especially editing. Like doing what we're doing right now still feels like more the art to me, because it's like in real time changing this imagery, seeing the pretty colors. But then sometimes the actual like editing can be like so grueling, especially if it's like not going the way it's supposed to be going.
Yeah.
And I can relate very heavily to like needing something physical and tangible that is not digital, has nothing to do with computer or even just like electricity.
Yeah.
Like when I get to that point, I just like switch back to painting and just like I need to draw something.
Yeah, for me it's like drawing or screen printing, because sometimes I'll just like be afraid that I'm losing all of my drawing skills, which doesn't really happen, but I'll just like not draw for months and then forget that that's something that I can do and that it's something that brings me joy.
That's awesome you're into screen printing too, because my background's in printmaking, and it's so good to meet like another video artist who has a background in printmaking.
Yeah, it's like surprisingly common, because it's like printmaking is like there's nothing digital about it. Like you're gonna get messy and it's gonna be like physically intensive. So I think a lot of people do it.
I think there's like a relationship between printmaking and video art, at least the way printmaking kind of makes you think about art and visuals. It ends up being the same way I think of visuals, even just like Resolume. It's like you're putting layers on top of each other, and that's like kind of the basis of most printmaking practices, whether or not that's relief or like screen printing. You're like thinking in layers.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes sense. The other thing I was gonna say that I just remembered was that, like, I always worry about copyright, which I think is something that theater has instilled in me, of, like, you cannot take anyone else's work.
Yeah.
But it, like, a lot of the content that I used to VJ with is all, like, download music videos from YouTube, because they're already so visually rich, and they're, like, one of my favorite art forms to just look at. I don't really watch movies. I rarely watch TV, but I'll just, like, watch music videos for hours. And sometimes I forget that, like, the copyright people aren't gonna find me at a show and be like, hey, you can't show that, Bjork music video or whatever, even if it's, like, super effects mixed,
Well, it's so funny, too, because it's, like, this started as, because of my VHS collection, so, like, very much, like, appropriative art of just, like, coming in with someone's, like, asking their favorite TV show or movie and then glitching it. And I gotta say, like, the copyright stuff is annoying, but it's so easy to get around it with the amount of effects you can apply. And occasionally I will still run into issues, but mostly, at least with YouTube, they just won't let me monetize, which I don't have a big enough following to monetize to begin with.
Yeah.
Or it'll surprisingly be blocked in Russia and Belarus are the two countries that, like, I don't know if it's because of, I don't know. They must have different copyright laws or something that it's, like, with the U.S., like, was it an embargo, like, when the Ukraine war started, where they, like, stopped doing, or, like, tariffs or something, like, stopped doing as much business with Russia?
Oh, I don't even know.
Where, I don't know if that's any way related, and the only time, occasionally certain animes will get blocked in Japan, specifically if Bandai owns it. Bandai is blocking your video in Japan. So, like, I love to glitch Gundam, and we'll work that more into, like, live shows than I do this show, specifically because I know it will immediately
and
get banned in
especially,
Japan.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot if it's just a live show that you're not recording or anything.
Yeah.
Because one night only, you're not really monetizing a ton. Like, right now, I'm literally just outputting the intro sequence from the Akira movie.
Yeah.
And it is barely recognizable. I mean, kind of, but...
Yeah, the only time I run into it, too, is if I'm not glitching hard enough.
Mm-hmm. Which then it just becomes, like, a creativity challenge of, okay, I guess I gotta glitch harder.
Exactly. Like, how can I make this my own art? And also, like, one thing with being back in school and, like, in the grad program at an art school is, like, has me thinking so much more conceptually about my work, where a lot of times before with just doing live visuals, it's like I'm taking media that I find, visually interesting or pleasurable and glitching it and adding something to it. But now it has me thinking of, like, okay, why this specific, movie or TV show or imagery, and what does that say?
Mm-hmm.
And also has me thinking a lot about the term, which I didn't even know what it meant when one of my grad advisors brought it up, but, like, media archaeology, which is, like, such an interesting concept and term.
What does that mean?
So it's basically, like, and hopefully the comments don't butcher me for, like, not being well read enough to, like, actually define it. But a lot of, from my understanding, what media archaeology is, like, going back and looking at old media and old technology in an artistic framework and reusing it to kind of, like, make a new mythology around it. So, like, a lot of, like, what I use is using, like, technology that has been abandoned and like VHS that's been essentially, like, thrown away by a lot of people, at least in the United States, who don't preserve it, and taking it and, like, recontextualizing it, where it's not just this, like, mass market way to, like, watch movies in the home, but, like, as an actual form of making art. And the other big thing with it, specifically with circuit bending, is a lot of our technology is black box, in the sense of, like, the way Macs are set up, you don't even have the right screwdriver to open it up or change anything. So circuit bending is a form of media archaeology where you're breaking out of the black box and, like, taking control of the technology and working with it to create something new, where it's not separate. You're not separated from it, and you're also breaking outside of the. There's a concept for it. Technology, but all goods where they're like made planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Where they're meant to be thrown away. It's crazy to me to think about like the very early light bulbs and how they would just last forever. And it was like capitalists who came in and be like, no, these need to die or else like we won't sell any more light bulbs. Because once you bought a light bulb, you don't need another.
Right. Yeah, it's like the most evil thing in the world.
Yeah.
When people just like design stuff in a way that is terrible for capitalism.
It's weird too because it's like, so this...
Well, and I feel like, I mean, I don't have like a VHS deck or anything, but I even feel crazy sometimes for like having a laptop with an Ethernet port, you know? Then that should not be...
Well, it's so funny too because the Mac I use the MacBook I use all the time for live shows. It's like I got in 2020 and I definitely should have done more research because it's like the worst model of Pro where it only has a headphone jack and then 2 USB-Cs. So like one for charging, one for everything else. And so you just have to have dongles upon dongles. And then when I was like testing out my setup for this installation next weekend, and my school doesn't have a media player that you can rent out. Apparently there was one, and it either broke or someone stole it, and they refused, despite being like getting millions of dollars from the amount of students they have. They can't replace this $40 thing.
Yeah.
Right. But not to bite the hand that feeds too much since we are renting out their camera, but just like, so I was testing out my old computer, just like, well, what if I just bring this Mac as a media player, because I don't like need it for school, and it's like, oh, this has an HDMI port just on it. Like, why don't all MacBook Pros have an HDMI port when it's like the reason you're needing, like, I'm not just like taking notes in meetings and doing Zoom calls, like we're creatives, we're using this for creative purposes. Taking away the HDMI makes no sense.
Yeah, I think it's just like the impulse of artists to take things that are a little bit obsolete, or, you know, because everything will become sought after again once it's rare. Like a VHS aesthetic, and it's going to be like, I don't know, Blu-rays. I mean,
well, now the CRT craze, which will hopefully die down soon. Yeah. But specifically, you used to be able to find CRTs almost anywhere because people were trying to get rid of them and get them really cheap. But retro gamers have ruined that, where now people are paying like top dollar to get CRTs, specifically like flat ones for retro gaming, which kind of suck because I just like embrace the bubble aesthetic of the screen. But I know a lot of glitch artists prefer to like film off the flat ones because you can get like a clearer picture without having to tilt the camera. Yeah. But yeah, now people are paying like hundreds of dollars for CRTs. This looks, I love that. I love when we get those textured colors.
Yeah. This one, it's strange how much the video is actually coming through with this.
Yeah. Yeah, this specific circuit bender too, it was marketed as like a sci-fi enhancer, which I definitely think like anything with like practical effects or just special effects in general look like so cool. Or like early CGI. One of my favorite VHS to glitch with this is like the Lawnmower Man or Beyond the Mind's Eye, which actually the CGI in Lawnmower Man was taken from Beyond the Mind's Eye.
The CGI is just very obviously layered on top of everything else.
Yeah. But yeah, very early CGI, like before even, PS1 graphics, but where it's just like, look at this cool bug fly around, or look at these weird, like, liquidy people. Do you have a particular favorite type of music or like musician that you love to make like visuals for, like either genre or musician?
Not really. Like, in terms of being a VJ, I kind of just treat it like I would designing a show. Of just like, it's my job to kind of like serve the music and the storytelling and the artist as much as I can.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about me is like, I am kind of just a chameleon, and sometimes if there's no theme, I have to invent one so that I can even begin to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I like it when whoever's playing has requests for visuals, because then I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'll find you.
Yeah.
Like the most interesting one I got was I VJ'd for Milkfish one time, and they were like, can you find a bunch of videos of trucks that are too tall for the bridge that they're going under?
I love how specific.
And water towers that are falling down or getting demolished, and I was like, absolutely.
My one thing too that I really like is specifically like talking to the musician beforehand and being like, what do you want, what do you don't want, but sometimes I like the freedom of just like going in with my own art and creating the aesthetic. My one pet peeve as a VJ is if like people want specific very specific visuals, but then you don't get them until the last minute, because it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, well at that point you're getting whatever I have.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't, like, especially with Resolume, I have to like encode all this stuff, so it doesn't. Yeah. Which do you use? Do you just drop clips, or do you use like Ali to encode them beforehand?
Oh, I do not even encode my stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of bad.
So the main thing, which we haven't really had many issues, I think it like runs smoother if you encode it, but it also makes the files so huge where you can really only like get up to like a minute of footage per clip as like a maximum, because it'll take like about a minute of footage will be like, each minute will be about a gigabyte once it's encoded.
Yeah, and like the thing about codecs is you just have to pick the right one for what you're doing, and it's not a problem until it becomes a problem. And I know enough about codecs to solve my problem when I have it, and to like know what to export things as if there's a really specific application for them, but most of the time I just do MP4 until it becomes a problem. That's not a codec, it's just a type of video, but whatever. Yeah, because here I can take, for example, this is a glitch that I made in Resolume a little while ago that now we can put another layer of stuff on.
We'll have your recording, but let me try to get that clear on here.
Yeah. I mean, this one is pretty abstract.
Yeah, so you can now you can see it more like going in and out. So that's a glitch you made in Resolume. Is that with feedback, or what did you use to create that?
I think there's a source. It's either like a generative source that I put a bunch of effects on. I think that's what it is. I couldn't tell you exactly what's in it, but yeah.
So what? Wow. Ooh, that looks nice. I feel like I'm somewhat out of questions.
That's okay.
So if there's anything you want to talk about, or you can just like groove for a while and jam for a while?
I don't know.
Is there anything you have to... ooh, nice.
I think I pretty much explained what I'm about.
Yeah, totally.
So,
anything you want to plug?
Not right now. I mean, follow my Instagram at miserable.gargoyle. I kind of put everything there, whether or not it's related to VJing. So. Do
you want to title the episode? Because so lately I've been, the show's been so sporadic, but lately I've been either titling it, just whatever the person's like moniker or stage name is, or whatever their at is on Instagram. And so, do you want to title this Fiz, or do you want to title it Miserable Gargoyle, or do you have a different title?
I don't know. Usernames are fickle sometimes.
Yeah.
My real name is Andres Fiz. Is just my last name, so you can just put it under my name.
Is it pronounced Fiz?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for pronouncing it Fizz this
No,
whole
I mean it's the Spanish pronunciation that literally no one gets right.
Okay,
so,
yeah, because I just thought like because
well,
I know.
and sometimes like there's another projection designer that calls me Fizz, and people have just thought that that's my name too. I embrace it. I think it's kind of cool.
I do think it's like a great stage.
Yeah,
name, too,
and
like,
nicknames are
Fizz.
good when you don't get to pick them.
Yeah,
so I'm not
yeah.
mad about it. I use it sometimes.
But it's Fiz.
Feith.
Feith.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that's how you pronounce the like Z.
Yeah, it's
That's-
like TH.
I love that. Yeah, because for me it always just made me think of sparkling water, which
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of.
No, me too, and that's why I'm like, okay, this is fitting.
I have a coworker who is a big sparkling water drinker, but like only calls it Fizz, and it's like, have
okay.
yourself a Fizz.
Yeah. What's your go-to sparkling water?
So lately I've been getting kind of bougie about it, and have like mainly been drinking sparkling mineral water.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like San Pellegrino, or S Pellegrino, I guess it's the non-flavored ones. Perrier, but I also really like Liquid Death a lot. Yeah, specifically just the regular sparkling with no flavor. But as far as the flavored ones go, I like pretty much all of them, but the Beach Plum LaCroix might be my favorite.
All right.
What about you?
When I have a budget, Topo Chico is my favorite. I
Ooh,
think
Topo Chico's so good.
it's so good. That'll like solve all of my problems when it's super hot out in like August. But most of the time I just drink like Target seltzer. I got this footage of like washing machine falling apart because sometimes when I'm VJing for like a hard techno show, I don't really listen to hard techno. It's not really my thing.
Yeah.
I was like, it kind of sounds like a washing machine with a brick in it, and so sometimes I do things like I'll VJ a few other events that I think are more like pretentious or a little more like people are trying to be more hardcore than they need to be at, and so I'll like greet people with a smile when they walk in the door and then put on some dumb shit on the video because I don't know,
That's
like
funny.
just to undermine the vibe.
Yeah. So it's hard to make out in the glitch, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
see in your recording of the.
I'm also
The
I have
washing
other stuff
machine.
on it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I turned a smiley face into that insane looking thing. There it is. I was messing with these knobs a little bit.
Ah, there's the smiley face. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. So we plugged your Instagram. Anything else you want to say?
I'm good. That's all.
Cool. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks everyone for watching.